Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that can shift the entire course of your financial future. Most people live their whole lives working for money, but very few ever learn the rule of money that makes money work for them. If you don't understand this rule, you'll always chase, but when you master it, money starts chasing you. Here's the money rule that changes life. When people grow up, they are often taught that hard work is the ultimate path to success. From a young age, many of us are told to study hard, work hard, and put in long hours so that one day we can earn a good living. That mindset has been passed down for generations, but there is a reason why some people work incredibly hard every single day and still struggle financially, while others seem to do far less work yet create enormous wealth. The difference is not effort, it is value. Money has never been a reward for the hours we put in. It has always been a reward for the value we create. Think about it like this. A person can spend 12 hours in the blazing sun digging ditches, sweating, exhausting their body, and at the end of the day, they may take home a modest wage. At the very same time, another person can spend 1 hour on a strategy call identifying a solution that saves a company millions of dollars, and they can walk away with a payment that far exceeds the ditch digger's entire month of work. It is not because the second person is better, smarter, or more deserving. It is simply because the marketplace rewards value, not effort. Most of us confuse activity with productivity. We think if we stay busy, if we check off boxes, if we grind longer hours than everyone else, eventually money will flow. But money doesn't respond to business, it responds to usefulness. If what you do makes life easier, faster, more efficient, or more profitable for someone else, then you are creating value. The ditch may be necessary work, but the problem it solves is small, and therefore the value in the eyes of the marketplace is small. The strategic solution, on the other hand, creates enormous leverage and is therefore compensated enormously. This is the fundamental shift that changes lives. If you want to change your financial future, you must stop measuring success by the sweat you produce and start measuring it by the value you produce. The marketplace does not keep track of how many hours you sacrificed. It only asks, what problem did you solve and how important was it? The truth is that the person who solves a problem worth $10 gets paid $10, and the person who solves a problem worth $1 million gets paid $1 million. Once you accept this, you begin to change the way you approach work itself. Instead of asking, how can I work harder? You start asking, how can I create more value? That question forces you to think differently. It forces you to develop skills that matter. It forces you to look at people not as paychecks, but as opportunities to serve in a way that elevates their life or business. Every product you see, every service you use, every invention that has ever changed the world came because someone chose to create value, not just perform a task. Now, here's where most people miss it. They believe they have to be the smartest person in the room or invent the next breakthrough technology in order to create high value. That is not true. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to be valuable. You just have to solve problems in a way that matters to someone willing to pay for the solution. Sometimes value comes from simplifying something that's complicated. Sometimes it comes from making something faster. Sometimes it comes from giving people back their time. Sometimes it comes from removing frustration. Every single person has the ability to create value once they stop focusing on how hard they work and start focusing on how helpful they can be. This is also why two people can have the exact same job but make very different incomes. One person shows up as the bare minimum and collects a paycheck. Another person in the same role is constantly asking, how can I do this better, faster, more efficiently? That second person is not just an employee. They are a problem solver. They may eventually rise into leadership, start their own business, or be sought out for consulting because they have built the muscle of creating value. They understand that their time is not what's being purchased. Their ability to make a difference is what's being rewarded. The people who live in constant financial struggle often cannot see this. They keep thinking, if I could just work another job, if I could just pick up more hours, if I could just put in overtime, then maybe I'll finally get ahead. But overtime will never outpace the power of value creation. You can add more hours, but you still only have 24 in a day. Value, however, is unlimited. You can package your knowledge, your expertise, your solution, and serve hundreds or thousands of people at once. That is why entrepreneurs and business owners who focus on scaling value multiply their income far beyond what a traditional worker could ever hope to do. This is also why mindset plays such a huge role in financial success. If you believe money only comes from labor, you will always chain yourself to labor. But if you believe money comes from value, you will begin searching for opportunities to multiply value. That belief changes the way you spend your time, the way you develop your skills, the way you show up in relationships, and the way you see problems. Suddenly, problems stop looking like obstacles and start looking like opportunities, because every problem is a potential payday if you can solve it for someone else. When most people think about making money, their first instinct is to add. They add another shift, they add more hours, they add a second job. They keep stacking pieces on top of one another, thinking if they can just add enough, eventually it will equal the kind of life they want. But addition has a limit, and that limit is time. No matter how many hours you stack, You cannot escape the fact that every person on earth has only 24 hours in a day. Once you've filled them up, the math ends. That is why people who rely only on adding hours never escape the grind. They hit a ceiling that cannot be broken by effort alone. Multiplication is the secret that wealthy people understand and struggling people ignore. Multiplication means finding ways for the same amount of effort to produce greater results. It means asking, how can this action serve 10 people instead of one? How can this idea generate income over and over without me having to repeat the work every time? When you learn to multiply, money begins to detach from your calendar. Instead of being tied to how long you work today, it is tied to the reach of the value you created. Think about an author. They spend months, maybe even years, writing a single book. At the end of that process, if they sold one copy, all that work would only pay once. But because books can be printed thousands or millions of times, that same effort can generate income again and again for years after the writing is finished. That is multiplication. A musician records a song one time, and the royalties keep flowing every time it is played. A business owner creates a system once, and it keeps generating revenue as long as the system runs. Multiplication breaks the trap of trading time for money. When you add, you are asking, how can I work harder? When you multiply, you are asking, how can I make this work harder than me? That is a radically different question, and it produces radically different results. Addition requires more of you. Multiplication requires you to think beyond you. You might have to build a team, create a system, or design an offer that continues to deliver value when you're not physically present. The effort you invest in building multiplication pays back far greater than the effort you spend simply stacking more hours. Here's the difference in practice. A person who mows lawns can only mow 1 yard at a time. If they want to make more, they have to add another yard, then another, and eventually they run out of daylight. Another person, however, creates a landscaping company. They build a team, invest in equipment, and structure contracts with neighborhoods. Suddenly, the work is being done by others under their system, and the money flows from multiple directions at once. The first person is adding. The second person is multiplying. Multiplication is not just about business models. It is about mindset. People who multiply think in terms of scale. They ask, if I can help one person, why can't I help 100? If this solution works in one city, why can't it work in 10? They stop seeing limits and start seeing leverage. And the truth is, most people already have something in their hands that could be multiplied if they looked at it differently. A skill, a piece of knowledge, an experience they've lived through. All of these can be turned into something that serves more people than just the one directly in front of them. Technology has made multiplication more accessible than ever. In the past, you might have been limited to teaching in a classroom of 30. Now you can teach online and reach thousands. Before, you might have only been able to sell to customers in your neighborhood. Now you can sell to anyone with an internet connection. The tools exist for multiplication, but the mindset has to shift before those tools can be used effectively. If you still think in terms of adding, you will use technology just to work harder, not smarter. If you think in terms of multiplying, you will use technology to extend your reach and detach income from your hours. One of the greatest obstacles to multiplication is control. People who insist on doing everything themselves never multiply. They are stuck in addition because addition is safe. Multiplication requires trust, delegation, and the willingness to let go of doing every single thing personally. When you teach others, when you systemize, when you automate, you are putting your value into a format that no longer depends entirely on your direct effort. That is uncomfortable for many, but it is the only way to expand beyond the limits of your personal capacity. If you want to change the financial trajectory of your life, the shift from addition to multiplication is non-negotiable. The moment you stop asking how you can add more hours and start asking how you can multiply the impact of each hour, you step into a completely different level of potential. Money flows to value and multiplication multiplies value. The person who learns to multiply will always outpace the one who only knows how to add, no matter how hard that person works. Every financial breakthrough comes down to one simple truth. The size of the problem you solve determines the size of the reward you receive. People often think money is about luck or connections or being in the right place at the right time, but in reality, money flows in proportion to the problems you solve and the level of importance those problems carry for the person or organization you're serving. The reason some people are stuck making the same paycheck year after year while others experience exponential growth is not because they are more talented or more deserving. It is because they have learned to position themselves as problem solvers at a higher level. Imagine two people working side by side. One is responsible for sweeping the floor, keeping things neat and organized. That is valuable work, but the size of the problem it solves is relatively small. The other person is responsible for designing a system that saves the company millions in wasted resources every year. Both are working, both are contributing, but the one who solves the bigger problem is compensated far more. The marketplace is not emotional. It doesn't reward effort for effort's sake. It rewards impact, and impact is measured by the size of the problem solved. This is why a doctor who performs life-saving surgery can earn more in a few hours than another person earns in a month of labor. The value of restoring someone's health, even saving their life, is massive. The marketplace recognizes the magnitude of that problem and pays accordingly. On the other hand, someone performing simple tasks that require no specialized knowledge is solving a problem almost anyone could handle. The result is that the value is lower and so is the compensation. Most people stay stuck because they are focused on tasks, not problems. They get busy completing to-do lists, answering emails, filling out forms, and checking off boxes. But none of those things are tied to big problems. They are simply maintaining what already exists. If you want to change your financial trajectory, you must begin to see problems as opportunities. Every major paycheck in history has been the result of someone seeing a problem, often one that others ignored, and choosing to solve it in a way that mattered. Think about the entrepreneurs who have changed industries. They didn't just create products, they solved problems at scale. Someone looked at the frustration of waiting for a taxi and created ride-sharing apps. Someone looked at the difficulty of finding information and created search engines. Someone looked at the need for communication across the world and built platforms that connected billions. Each of these solutions addressed a massive problem and as a result, generated massive financial rewards. At a smaller scale, this principle applies to every individual career as well. If you want to earn more, don't look at your paycheck and complain that it isn't enough. Look at the problems around you and ask yourself which ones you can solve. Are there inefficiencies in your workplace that you can address? Are there gaps in service, frustrations from customers, or bottlenecks in production? The person who notices these things and brings solutions positions themselves as indispensable. They are no longer just another worker, they are a problem solver, and problem solvers rise. There is also a difference between solving temporary problems and solving ongoing ones. Temporary problems may bring short-term income, but ongoing problems create recurring value. If you design a system that keeps producing results, you have multiplied your impact. That is why businesses built on subscriptions or recurring services grow so quickly. They are solving a problem that people have not just once, but consistently. And because the problem continues, so does the payment. One of the greatest mindset shifts is to stop running away from problems. Most people want to avoid them, complain about them, or pretend they don't exist. The wealthy run toward them because they understand that every problem contains the seed of a payday. A problem is nothing more than a question looking for an answer, and the one who provides that answer reaps the reward. The bigger the question, the bigger the answer required, and the bigger the compensation attached. Of course, this requires growth. If you want to solve bigger problems, you have to become a bigger person. You can't solve $1 million problems with $10 skills. This is why personal development, education, and continual growth are so vital. The more you learn, the more equipped you become to step into arenas where the problems are larger and the stakes are higher. Each new skill, each new insight, each new level of confidence positions you to solve issues that others cannot. And that is exactly why the marketplace will reward you in ways it never did before. Before money ever shows up in someone's life, it has already passed through their mind. The way a person thinks about money determines whether they attract it, repel it, hold it, or lose it. Many people believe that their financial problems are about skill set, that if they just learned a new trade or worked a little harder, money would come. But the truth is that mindset shapes money long before skill set ever has a chance. Two people can learn the same skills, work in the same environment, and receive the same opportunities. Yet one builds wealth while the other struggles. The difference is not in what they know, but in what they believe. Someone who sees money as scarce, dangerous, or temporary will handle it like something fragile that is slipping away. Even if they receive a sudden increase, they will find ways to sabotage themselves, spend it recklessly, or hide it in fear until it loses value. Their mindset acts like a filter that money cannot pass through. On the other hand, someone who believes money is abundant, circulating, and available will look for opportunities, see solutions where others see dead ends, and naturally attract situations where money continues to grow. Their mindset creates a container large enough to hold the wealth that skill set can generate. Consider how people from different backgrounds approach the same amount of money. One person receives an extra $100 and immediately thinks about what they can buy, how quickly they can spend it, and what temporary pleasure it can bring. Another person receives the same $100 and asks how they can multiply it, where they can invest it, or how they can turn it into more. The amount was the same, the opportunity was equal, but the mindset determined the outcome. That is why lottery winners often end up broke within a few years, while entrepreneurs with no resources can build empires from scratch. Skill set may have helped them grow, but mindset was the foundation that decided whether they could sustain it. Fear is one of the strongest mindset blocks around money. People who fear losing money make decisions that guarantee they will. They avoid risk to such a degree that they miss out on growth. They hold so tightly to what they have that they never position themselves to receive more. This fear often disguises itself as wisdom or caution, but underneath it is simply a scarcity belief that there isn't enough to go around. Abundance-minded individuals, however, know that money is always in motion. They understand that circulation is the key to multiplication. When they spend, they think of it as planting seeds. When they invest, they see it as watering those seeds. Their confidence that money will return shapes their ability to create opportunities where others see only loss. Another mindset difference lies in how people view problems. To someone trapped in a poverty mindset, every financial challenge feels like the end of the world. Bills, unexpected expenses, or setbacks are seen as proof that money is against them. To someone with a wealth mindset, those same challenges are signals. They see them as lessons, redirections, or opportunities to grow stronger. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what can I learn from this and how can I position myself better next time? That shift in thinking changes their behavior and their behavior changes their results. Generational beliefs also play a role. Many people were raised hearing phrases like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that. Those messages create subconscious patterns that follow them into adulthood. Without even realizing it, they sabotage themselves whenever opportunities arise because they are programmed to believe wealth is either unattainable or undesirable. Changing the financial future of a person often requires unlearning those inherited beliefs. It requires replacing them with thoughts like money is a tool for impact, there is always more than enough, and wealth allows me to serve at a higher level. Mindset also shapes how people use their skill set. Imagine two salespeople with the same training. One approaches every customer with desperation, thinking, I hope they buy, I need this commission. That energy repels buyers. The other approaches with confidence, thinking, I have something valuable that will genuinely help this person. That energy attracts buyers, same skill set, different mindset, radically different results. The truth is, people don't rise financially to the level of their skills. They rise or fall to the level of their mindset. The skill is the tool, but the mindset is the hand that wields it. If the hand is weak, unsure, or filled with doubt, the tool will not be used effectively. If the hand is steady, confident, and focused, the tool will produce extraordinary results. That is why some people with fewer credentials or less technical knowledge outperform experts. Their mindset allows them to fully use what they know without fear or hesitation. People do not buy because you need money. They buy because they perceive what you are offering as more valuable than the money they are exchanging. This is the foundation of creating irresistible offers. Too many people think selling is about pushing harder, convincing stronger, or begging longer. They believe that if they just keep shouting about their product or service, eventually someone will say yes. But in reality, sales are not about pressure, they are about packaging. The way you frame and deliver your value determines whether people lean in eagerly or walk away uninterested. An irresistible offer is not about tricking people or using slick words to force a decision. It is about aligning your product or service so clearly with their desires and needs that the decision becomes obvious. When an offer is irresistible, the customer feels like they are winning, not losing. They feel like the price they pay is small compared to the benefit they gain. And when people feel like they are winning, they buy quickly, they buy confidently, and they buy repeatedly. The key to building such an offer begins with understanding the gap your customer is facing. Every person is standing at point A and wants to reach point B. They may want to lose weight, build wealth, improve their health, grow their business, or enjoy more peace of mind. Point A is their frustration and point B is their dream. Your offer must be positioned as the bridge between those 2 points. If they see clearly that you can shorten their journey, remove obstacles, and get them to the destination faster and with less pain, the offer becomes magnetic. Price is not the main issue. People buy based on perceived value, not cost. Someone might hesitate to spend $50 on something they see as unnecessary, but gladly pay $5,000 for something that promises to solve a painful problem. The offer must be constructed in such a way that the value far outweighs the price. This means adding elements that increase perceived worth. Bonuses, guarantees, access, and exclusivity all expand the sense of value. A guarantee, for example, removes risk and creates trust. Bonuses make the buyer feel like they are receiving more than expected. Exclusivity makes the offer feel rare and urgent. Each of these pieces turns a simple transaction into an irresistible opportunity. Another component of an irresistible offer is clarity. People do not buy when they are confused. If they have to work hard to figure out what you are offering or why it matters, they will walk away. Your message must be clear, simple, and direct. It should communicate what the offer is, who it is for, what problem it solves, and why now is the best time to act. The easier it is for them to understand, the faster they make the decision. Confusion delays decisions, and delays often turn into no's. Storytelling also plays a vital role. Facts tell, but stories sell. When you share how your offer has impacted others, when you highlight transformations, and when you demonstrate the emotional journey from frustration to success, people connect. They don't just see a product, they see themselves in the story. They imagine their own life being transformed. That emotional connection makes the offer more than a purchase. It makes it a step into their own future. Scarcity and urgency amplify irresistibility. People delay decisions when they believe the opportunity will always be available. But when they realize the offer is limited by time, by quantity, or by access, they move. Scarcity communicates value and urgency creates movement. When combined with genuine value, these elements prevent procrastination and help people step into the decision they already want to make. Irresistible offers are also aligned with trust. People buy from those they believe in. If your words, actions, and reputation are inconsistent, no amount of clever packaging will work. Integrity is the foundation. Delivering on promises, exceeding expectations, and building relationships create the credibility that makes your offers believable. The more people trust you, the less resistance they feel when making a purchase. An irresistible offer is never static. It evolves as the needs and desires of the marketplace evolve. What worked 5 years ago may not be compelling today. This means you must constantly listen, test, and refine. You must pay attention to feedback, study results, and adjust to ensure your offer remains aligned with what people truly want. Flexibility keeps your offer alive and relevant, while rigidity leaves it outdated and ignored. When people chase money, they often find it running faster than they can catch. They run from job to job, hustle to hustle, always looking for the next quick opportunity, and yet the money never seems to stay. It shows up for a moment, then slips away through expenses, emergencies, or missed chances. The harder they chase, the further away it seems. That is because money was never designed to be pursued directly. Money is a byproduct, a result, a reflection of alignment with purpose. When a person is consumed with chasing money, they are putting the cart before the horse. But when they align their life, their skills, and their energy with a purpose greater than themselves, money flows as a natural consequence. Purpose is magnetic power. People are drawn to someone who is on mission, who is moving with clarity, who is not just selling a product, but fulfilling a calling. When you operate from purpose, your actions carry conviction, and conviction is contagious. Customers, clients, and partners can feel the difference between someone who is chasing dollars and someone who is building destiny. The one chasing dollars comes across as desperate, grasping, and self-centered. The one building destiny comes across as confident, generous, and trustworthy. And trust is the currency that opens doors to wealth. Purpose also gives endurance. Money alone is not enough to keep people going when the challenges hit, when the nights get long, and when the setbacks come. If the only motivation is money, discouragement will eventually win. But if the motivation is purpose, obstacles become part of the process. Purpose transforms pain into fuel. It creates a why that is strong and to outlast anyhow. That resilience attracts people because they know they can depend on you to stay consistent even when circumstances shift. Consistency creates stability, and stability builds financial momentum. The irony is that those who chase money usually end up serving themselves, while those who follow purpose end up serving others. And it is service that the marketplace rewards most. Money always follows impact. When you make someone's life better, easier, richer, or more meaningful, they gladly exchange their money for that benefit. The deeper and wider the impact, the greater the financial return. A person focused solely on money might find shortcuts, but those shortcuts often cut them off from long-term success. A person focused on purpose builds structures that serve people again and again, and in return, the money continues to circulate back. Purpose is also what creates legacy. Money without meaning often gets spent, wasted, or forgotten. Purpose-driven wealth, however, continues to bear fruit long after the initial work is done. It shapes families, communities, and even generations. That is why many of the world's most impactful leaders, inventors, and entrepreneurs were not primarily motivated by a paycheck. They were motivated by a vision. They wanted to solve problems, make life better, and change the world in some way. The money they earned was simply the echo of their purpose being fulfilled. When someone aligns with purpose, decision-making changes. Instead of asking, how much money will this make me? They ask, does this align with what I'm called to do? That filter leads to better choices, choices that build long-term momentum rather than short-term gain. And because they are making decisions from alignment, they attract opportunities that fit their mission perfectly. That alignment saves them from distractions that would have drained time and energy. While others scatter themselves chasing every dollar, the purpose-driven individual focuses like a laser and as a result multiplies their impact and income. Another aspect of purpose is passion. People can feel it when you believe in what you're doing. They can sense when your energy is authentic, when your voice carries more than salesmanship, when your work comes from the core of who you are. Passion is persuasive in a way that tactics can never be. It draws people in, keeps their attention, and makes them willing to invest in your vision because they believe in you. That belief translates into transactions, but more importantly, it translates into loyalty. Customers become advocates, clients become partners, and partners become allies in expanding the mission. Money is fleeting when pursued directly, but when it is connected to purpose, it becomes rooted. It is no longer something you must beg for. It is something that gravitates towards you because it is attracted to the impact you are making. The circulation of money becomes steady because the flow of purpose is steady. This is why the wealthiest people are often those who talk less about money and more about mission. They know that when the mission is clear, the money will come.